There's some biography behind this depiction of Monet's garden at Giverny and the painting of Verneuil that hangs alongside it. In January 1899, Monet's old friend and fellow impressionist Alfred Sisley died. This was followed the next month by the death of Alice's daughter, Monet's stepdaughter, Suzanne.
So 1899 was a year that was marked for the Monet family by grief. And it's interesting that in that year, Monet painted a series of pictures of the Japanese bridge in his garden. These are interesting not only because they're very personal motifs, showing a bridge that he'd only had constructed 4 years before, but they are on square canvases, and they're essentially symmetrical compositions. These are very balanced and harmonious pictures. And one has the feeling that Monet was striving for pictures that had a sense of unity and one might almost say of well-being at a time which was very difficult for him. 2 years later, in 1901, he went back in the summer to paint the village at Verneuil, where he'd lived over 20 years before. His wife, Alice, came with him and sat with him while he painted Verneuil, seen across the River Seine. Alice was still in mourning for her daughter Suzanne. Monet looked across the river to the village where he'd lived with Alice and also where his first wife Camille had died and was buried in the graveyard that is just to the very left margin of this painting. And again, he was using more or less a square canvas and a very balanced, symmetrical, quasi-symmetrical composition. And once more, one can interpret these pictures as paintings that were deliberately contrived to give a sense of wholeness and equilibrium at a time of family grief.